Hi there, it's Anne of Rosy Duck Designs here. Thanks ever so much for joining me today. If you've seen the last video, you will know that various things went wrong. We had certain issues with the tablet not pausing or not turning off. So we're hoping we've rectified that, but as you know with my videos, anything can happen and it probably will. I think I have everything that I need, but again, um, we know that that probably isn't the case. So let's do what we always do and just take it as it comes and just do the best we can. There is an Ollie wandering around the room somewhere, so obviously distracted. Okay. Probably just as well after yesterday, if I'm honest. So just a quick couple of pieces of news. The Sale-A-Bration Big Shot folder, I have to read this out because I can never remember what it's called. The Country Floral Dynamic Textured Impressions Embossing folder, which we have featured a couple of cards during the last couple of months, or certainly since the 15th of February when this was launched. And the embossing quality of this is absolutely beautiful. They're just a couple of random pieces of card that I've embossed. And I'm pleased to say that this will actually be coming back in the annual catalogue. So if you've missed out so far, you will be able to get this again once the new catalogue launches. I believe that's going to be the 4th of June. However, it's still a Sale-A-Bration reward, so there is a chance to get your hands on it for absolutely free. Obviously, having placed a qualifying order of £45 excluding postage and packing. So I thought that was great news because it was such a lovely embossing folder that I thought it was just a shame that we were only going to get to play with it for just a couple of months. So that's the first piece of news. In the last video I mentioned about the cake punch and also the butterfly punch. I didn't mention that, but they're the two punches that went out of stock very quickly. Now I've had an update this morning and it looks like they could be back in by the middle of April, so that's what we're all hoping for. As I said yesterday, if either of those are something you've been wanting to get, then I'm happy to send you an email when they are available to order. So just use the contact me button and just make a note on there that that is what you want me to do, and I'll be happy to do that. Just on that note, use that contact me button if you want a catalogue, or if you want your name on the list for one of the new catalogues when they become available. So mid-May I'll be sending those out. And also, if you'd like to just be added to my mailing list, you just get a newsletter update every month. And I also use that contact detail if there's some startling Stampin' Up news that I think you should know about. So I don't pester you with endless emails. It's just basically for a newsletter so that you just get to keep up to date with what's going on. So I think that's all I need to say about random things, so let's get on with some crafting. So I'm going to feature, she said, the Tea Time Framelit Dies, which again is a Sale-A-Bration reward, which was launched right at the beginning when Sale-A-Bration started. So it's a level 2 reward. It's this one here, and it coordinates with the Tea Together stamp set, which you will find in the spring summer catalogue. Now the good news is that this too is carrying forward into the new catalogue, so again, if you don't get it now, you will be able to buy it when the new catalogue becomes available. But again, as with the folder, it's a chance to get a product from the catalogue for free based on you placing a qualifying order. Now a level 2 is £90 excluding postage and packing. So a very pretty stamp set, and it's very effective when you use the framelits in conjunction with it. So a couple of examples. This is I meant to look this up. This is Pear Pizzazz. This is Lovely lipstick, and I've coloured in the teapot using Blushing Bride in conjunction with my blender pens, and I've cut out the roses, coloured and cut out the roses using the dies. Let's get the dies out of the packet. So these are the dies. I haven't got round to sticking them on my new magnetic sheets that have just arrived. Let me just find that paper for you, because it's a beautiful paper, this. I think it's the Floral Romance, or yeah, Floral Romance suite. And it's this paper, it's a speciality designer series paper, and you've got some textures in there of printed vellum, so it is really a lovely set of papers to have. So I've used that in conjunction with this card. So that was that, and I've just done the rose inside. So just like a little note card that will do for, you know, those times when you need a card and you've got one ready made. Now this is the one I'm going to share with you today. So again, I've used the teapot and I've used the teacup in this instance, but I just wanted to see how that worked together. And I've cut the two out using the framelits. So that's that. I'm actually going to, normally I'll do a different colour, but I actually really love that colour coordination, so I'm going to use that today. So put those away for now. I did use, this is a Sale-A-Bration reward, a level 1 reward, part of my story, and I've used that sentiment on this card, and I've heat embossed this with Lovely lipstick embossing powder. So I love the fact that the ink colours have got their own specific embossing powder, so we can add some colour very easily to embossing. So I thought I'd show you that because that features this stamp set, which I love this. That was on a card the other day, I think I shared, certainly on my Facebook page. Lots of really good sentiments in that, and I know that privately when I make cards I will certainly still be using this a long time after Sale-A-Bration is finished. So get that out of the way, grab some coffee, coordinated with my top today with my flamingo cup. Drink it, some of it while it's hot. So slight deviation for me is that I'm using a pool party as my base card. So as normal, it's 8x6, scored at 4, nice crisp fold in the middle with my bone folder. And then I've got 2 pieces of Whisper White, and they are cut at 5 3/4 by 3 3/4. And I've got a couple of pieces of Whisper White because I'm going to need that to put my sentiment on. And I've got an envelope. So let's start with the inside of the card. Now this is a cling stamp. And do that in. I remind myself how I did that. So I've got my Memento ink. Always looks like there's nothing actually on there, but it is. Always worth checking though. So I'm going that way up, so it fits nicely into the corner of my card. And then I need to colour that in, but I will do that later on because I'm going to do a bit of colouring, and then I'm just going to pause hopefully the video because it's quite a lot of colouring in. Although I don't I don't think it's fair to expect anybody to sit through that amount of colouring in. So I'm just going to put that to one side and I'll do all the colouring at the same time. So the next thing I want is my teapot. Now this is a really big stamp, so you need a nice big block for that. So I've gone with my, I can find it, this is my E block. So just nice cling stamps, cling to blocks, and cat hair also clings to them. That looks like one of yours, Timmy. Ollie's obviously having a lay down somewhere. Or plotting something, that's probably more like it. So, okay, see, I've managed to get ink on my finger. So, never a good idea to stick black ink on your fingers. So that is my teapot. Because there's quite a big area of ink, and we all know that I'm so messy, let me just clean that off. And then I want my tea, I don't want my teapot, I want my teacup. And that's going to fit onto a D block. To say that this, done it again, must be ink on that side. Couldn't make this up, could you? I couldn't write this. I have to say that I'm hoping to, if I don't completely mess this card up, I'm hoping that it's going to go to an elderly friend of ours this evening. Let me take that middle bit out. How not to craft. So shows it the way it is, I think. There you go. So I'm going to put my teapot, no, my teacup right next to the teapot. I think I might need a lay down in a darkened room somewhere. That might be a good idea. Stick that in there so I don't mess that up anymore. Get that off of there. And I want this little stamp. It's going to be one of those days. We found the director at least, didn't we? There he is, look. You right under there? Hard life, isn't it? Is it a bit bright, Ollie? With the light? A bit too bright for you. See, it's all going wrong out here, in the real world out here. I'm making a complete mess of things as normal. I need your assistance. So I'm faffing about somewhat, but this is one of these little stamps I do have a bit of a problem with getting off my block. So I've just put a little bit of a post-it note on there just so that I can pull it off. So let's try and regain some sort of order. I use the term loosely. So I'm going to stick a little rose pattern, let's go for one up here. And then I'll do one round here. Let's do it there. And then I've got room, hopefully, for this little one just over here. And there's not really, you could put one of those that would fit in there, but it looks, I think, better with just the two little rosebuds. So going onto the cup. And then just onto that side there. Huge sigh of relief because I haven't messed that bit up. So let me just clean these two stamps off and get them off the block, because they are, that one's not so bad, but this one could stick. So with this one, having that bit of paper on it, you can just pull it off very easily, and that just peels off. Saves all the hassle of, because this bit can, in these tiny stamps, it's this bit that sticks onto your block that actually can peel off, and that stays on your block, and you've got a stamp in one hand and this still on your block. So just by taking that little precaution of adding that little piece of paper, it does help you to not have that problem. As I've said, generally if you clean your stamps and get them off the block quite quickly, personally I've not had any major problem. There's just been a couple of really tiny little stamps that I have struggled with. So we're going to add some colour. Let me do the inside of the card first, and that will show you how I've done the roses. I've got one day I will have a craft room and it will all be to hand, instead of having to bring it in and out from different places. This would make quite a good area. I mean, this was the intention, but then we used to have much better behaved cats, but this lot, they would just wreck it. And you have to turn drawers around so that they can't get their little paws into them. So we've had to rethink the whole thing and try and think where else at some point we can find a little space for a craft room. So I work in here, but then I work in what is technically our office, which is basically a junkie room, but it has a desk, but it has, you know, all those things that you've got no room for. So it wouldn't be the place to be showing on a video. I don't think there's actually room for both of us to sit in there at the same time, is there? Let alone film. Never mind. I've been having a look on Pinterest. There's some, you can get really lose a lot of time, I have to say, looking on various things, but I have been nosing around on the craft room layouts, and yeah, I think I've sort of turned a shade of green a couple of times, because there are some beautiful layouts on there. Never mind. So I'm just going over here with my blender pens with some Pear Pizzazz. It started off quite dull this morning, but it's gone quite sunny. trouble is you never quite know how the video is going to come out until you sort of upload it. There's a few sort of, apart from the technical issues on the last one, there was a few issues with the light. Right, so I'm going on with Lovely lipstick. Now that is a very heavy colour, so I want to take it right down to the sort of the paler pink element of it, and then I'm just going to basically colour the rose in. By the sheer fact that as you colour, you're taking more and more colour off of the nib of the blending pen, you are getting that highlight of colour, but the plan is to just go back and add a little bit more once the rose is coloured in. So as I say, I thought if I did this one, this is basically how I'm going to be doing the rose on the front of the teapot. So unfortunately it's not something you can hurry. It's one of those talk amongst yourselves moments, I think. Imagine if I was going to do the whole teapot, we'd all be needing a darkened room to lay in, I think. It's times like this we could do with a bit of interaction with the cats, and what do? They go to sleep. When I want them to be nice and peaceful, they want to join in, don't they? Or have a fight or do something. So I've got my basic colour on, so I'm now going back just with a bit of darker ink, just to add a little bit more detail. Now there's no right or wrong place to just add that. It's just by adding a little bit of extra depth of colour, you're just making the flower look a little bit more like a flower. You're sort of raising it off of the page basically. So that's that one done, and of course it does need Wink of Stella. I've got some of that left. So in this instance I'm not being too fussy. I'm not necessarily going across the whole lot, and I'm just doing the rose because I just want it to, when it catches the light, I just want a little bit of shimmer on that, which I've got. I don't think that's going to pick it up, but it's there. So let me just close that up before I do something that I shouldn't with that, and I'm going to stick that into the base of the card. I'm getting hand signals that I've been going on for a long time. 24 minutes. Oh, who knew? No, to be fair, you do know that I can I can talk. Now look, you've thrown me off what I'm doing now. So this is my inside of the card. We get slightly worried because it seems like the tablet gets as far as 30 minutes and then it sort of basically decides enough is enough and it stops. But I have to say, the two videos that I joined together yesterday, they went together very, very easily. So long may that last. So that's my base card. I'll do one of the roses, I think, on here because they are slightly different. And I'll do one of the little rosebuds. So again, I'm taking the colour down as much as possible. I think I need some new blender pens. It's starting to look a little bit rough around the edges, that end. If I put my order in this week, I'll get a Sale-A-Bration remover. Oh, that'd be good. I love the fact that there are some Sale-A-Bration rewards that have been added, which are actually items from the catalogue. So there's one of the kits in there. I can't remember what it's called, but it's a kit that I haven't actually got. So I'm thinking I could get that, and I'd still have a couple of months of use out of it. Because obviously, as demonstrators, we sort of move on with the new products. That's not implying that the product has a shelf life as far as using it for crafting, but obviously we're demonstrating current products, so obviously from our point of view they do have a certain shelf life. So it's nice to be able to buy or get as a reward something that I can carry on using right through May until the catalogue comes out, which is all very exciting because that will be launched to us at On Stage, which is next month. So it's really quite exciting. We're starting to get a little bit of information as to what may be carrying through or is carrying through. But yeah, very, very exciting, and it won't be long once that's happened that we'll be sharing it with obviously online on videos and Facebooks and Pinterest and Instagram, anywhere else that we think we can show it. So let me just do the little bud here. So again, I've taken off some of the colour, but I want this one quite dark. So if you notice on this one, I started with the as much colour off of it, and then I've just gone around the outside with a bit of darker colour just to give it that look of a flower. So I'm going to really take that off and make this one light. And then, as I did in the inside, I'm going to then just come back in and add my pear pizzazz on the leaves. So that's how I'm going to do the flowers. So let's just do a bit of the teapot. And for this, unusually for me, I'm using Stampin' blends, and I've got Pool Party Stampin' blends, and I've got the light version and the dark version. I'll talk more about that when I come back. Let me do the dark bit. Now they come with a thick nib, and a thin one. So I'm going to start with the dark colour, and I'm literally going to colour in certain elements of the teapot. I did the handle. Let me do the top because that's not going to take very long. Now these, as their name implies, they blend into each other very well. I'm not using them as blends particularly, I'm using them as a colouring tool. But they are designed to blend well together, so you can get all sorts of different colours blending into each other. And they've got fantastic coverage, I have to say, on the card. So that's my pale colour. We just do the base of the teacup. I have to say this set, I love this set. It sort of evokes memories of the days when we had cups and saucers. It's probably me, but now if somebody gives me a saucer, I'm really not sure what to do with it. But it's sort of afternoon tea springs to mind, doesn't it? And evokes memories of a gentler age, perhaps. Pretty china. So I am going to just do this bit, so this is the light version of the Pool Party. And as it's going on, you sort of start to think, is there a difference in colour? But then as it dries, you'll see that there is. So that's the contrasting colour. So this is the light version. So as you can see, there's an awful lot of colouring with this. So this is not a card to do if you're wanting a card in a hurry. So I'm going to now pause the video because this would take forever to film it. So when I come back, I will have coloured all this in. And what I'm also going to have done is cut it out using the framelits. But I have to say, if you didn't have the framelits and you just had the stamp set, then that would work very well on top of your card. You don't have to cut them out, that would still look very pretty. So that's what I'm going to do, and I will be back soon. So now we have the director in his rightful place. Hopefully this second part will go a bit better. What do you think, Ollie? Doubtful, I know, I have to say. Totally agree with you. So whilst the camera has not been on, I have finished the little teapot, and I hope you can see there the variation in the two colours of the Pool Party. And I've done the teapot in the same way, and I've added Stampin' dimensionals to the back, and to save time I've pulled all the bits off. So making up the card, I've stuck on the top of the base card the 3 3/4 by 5 3/4 Whisper White card. Now it's quite a tight fit, so I'm going to take this as far into the edge, but just leaving a tiny bit of white border. And then I'm going to put my teacup similar distance away. And then I've also heat embossed a thanks sentiment onto some Whisper White card, and then I've cut round that using the layering ovals. So it was that one, the plain edged, and so that's about 2 inches across, that one, and then this one is just over 2.5 inches, and I've cut that out using a piece of Pool Party. So I'm just going to add that to the corner here. And that is the finished card. I've added Wink of Stella, as you would expect for me, onto the flowers and the little rosebuds, and I've also done the matching envelope, which was using lost the stamp set. There we go. I've used that stamp, the same one that we did inside the card. And unusually, I've actually added Wink of Stella to the envelope. I don't normally bother with that, but I just thought this is such a pretty card that it just deserved to have a little bit of extra bling on the envelope. So that is the card. Now, we obviously went through the elements of how we coloured it all, and I just really didn't want this to turn into the longest video ever, but I just wanted to highlight a couple of areas that perhaps, certainly things I didn't know when I first started to stamp. So I just wanted to run that by you. Obviously if you've been doing it for years you know, but if you're starting out, you know, perhaps heat embossing is not something you're used to. So I'm just going to quickly heat emboss the thanks. I'm not going to bother cutting it out or anything, but just to run you through the process. We all know that's when it's all going to go wrong. So I've got this small piece of Whisper White, and over the top of that I'm running across what is called an embossing buddy. And what that does is just add a little fine film of powder, and it stops the excess powder of the embossing powder sticking to anything other than what you want it to stick to. So with my thanks stamp, I'm using my Versamark pad, and I'm sticking that in the centre, because if I was using this for the card, I want to obviously be able to cut round that. Put that away. Now, taking a piece of just basic paper, I've got my in colour embossing powders, so they come in you see the 5 different in colours, so 2018, 2020. So I'm just taking the lovely lipstick and I'm just covering the centre of the card where I've stamped, and then I'm just tapping it to make sure it's all fallen off. Now I also have just a very small paintbrush to hand, so that I can very carefully remove anything that looks like it shouldn't be there. Now put that to one side. You obviously want to put this powder back sooner rather than later. So you're just adding it back in like that. Now I have seen other demos where they use like a little plastic pot with their powder, and they sort of spoon it on the top, and that seems to work great. This is the way I've always done it, so if it's not broke, don't fix it. But as I say, that seems like quite a good idea. It does contain your powder. So I'm just going to put that up there. Now I'm taking my heat gun. Now I have to say, this is not a Stampin' Up heat gun. This is one I've had for years, and I have to say it's still working, so I really can't justify going out and buying another one. So I'm turning it on. And you will see the powder basically sort of shrink into as it's heated, and it then becomes this solid mass across where you've stamped. Now, as I was saying, the Stampin' Up one, I think it's £28, and be careful because there is a UK plug and a European plug, so there's 2 different numbers for that. And it's better in the sense that it has 2 heats. So it has a lower heat to help you dry ink. So if you're waiting for some ink to dry, it will do that on the lower setting, and then it has a higher setting which does what we're doing here, melting the powder. So if you've not got one, I would say go for that one, because it's handy having that 2 speed. So when this one gives up, that's certainly what I will be doing. So that was how I did that. Be careful because this is like a hairdryer, so it does get hot. So I think the tablet's getting to the point where it switches itself off. It's a bit like one of those sleep alarms. So as I said, this is hot, so don't do what I did the other day and have it in my hand and turn it on inadvertently. So that's one little piece of advice. So we would carry on and cut that out and use that on a card. The other thing, while I was away, I changed my piece of paper that your dies will come on, so this sticky bit here, to my magnetic sheets. Now I think it was under £10, the magnetic sheets. Yeah, I'm getting a nod. And I got something like 10 sheets for under £10 off of Amazon recently, and that does a great job to just keep your dies handy and all together, so you don't lose them. And also there's no pressure as you take it off. With this, because this is sticky, you're applying a certain amount of pressure each time you remove your die. So they're great for postage and getting them to you, but seriously would recommend that as an idea. So before hopefully the tablet doesn't give up again, just another quick tip about cutting this out, because obviously I've cut this out using the framelits, and I've used the magnetic platform. Now, I did say yesterday, if you've got any health problems where you shouldn't be exposed to magnets, then do not get a magnetic platform. You would know better than I would as to, you know, whether it's acceptable or not to you personally. If you have no problem with magnets, it's brilliant for keeping your framelits in place. However, as you can imagine, there was quite a bit of colouring in and things like that. So at the last minute, you really don't want this to slip when you cut it out. And that can even happen even with a magnet, because magnets don't always bond in quite the way they should. So 99% of the time it will just hold it as it's doing there. But if you really want to be doubly sure, just stick a little post-it note over the top before you make your sandwich. Then you run it through the Big Shot, and that is keeping that totally in place. And that works particularly well if you're using the Big Shot platform with the thin die adapter, or just your Big Shot platform. If you've not got the magnetic platform and you're wanting to keep something in place, then that is a really handy tip to just apply a post-it note just to make sure that it keeps in place, and as you run it through the Big Shot, it just cuts this through and that peels off very easily. So just another little tip I just wanted to share. Sounds obvious, and if you've been crafting for years, then it is obvious, but if you're starting out, any little tip I think helps. Obviously we've all learned by other people sharing information with us, so I hope that's of use to some of you. The kit I was going on about earlier that's available in Sale-A-Bration is this Share What You Love embellishment kit. So that is, it's got some labels and twine and roses and things. So I think that's going to be on my list as I go and put my order in. I just wanted to find, if I can, the Stampin blends. So you'll find the details of those on pages 204 and 205. You can buy them in singles at $4.25 each. So you can buy a light or you can buy a dark of the colour. You can also buy a combo pack, so you get a light and a dark in that pack. There's a bronze and ivory colour, which is a really good skin tone, and there's also a colour lifter which actually removes colour if you're trying to take something off. So I'll put a link to my shop as always on the front of the video, so you can go and have a look at those particular pages to find out all about Stampin blends. So I think I've waffled far too long. So as usual, all the product details will be on the front of the video. My links to my shop, contact me, join my team buttons will be on there, as will my business Facebook page, Instagram and Pinterest. So as I said yesterday, when I upload this, it will be the 20th, so that is just 11 days left of Sale-A-Bration. I think I will come back just to do a final countdown for Sale-A-Bration, probably around the weekend, because I actually found one little card that I hadn't shared with you, and it seems a shame not to. So I will be back to do that. But until then, enjoy the rest of the week, take care, and I will see you very soon. Bye.